Good morning, everyone. We continues to be complicated and continues to expand. Toronto City Mayor John Tory's under fire, and we're going to have a look at that in just a minute. But here's Andrew Scheer responding to, don't you think that we's the only one who could have done this? Who could have delivered the program? And he says, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's true at all. Here we go.
It had to, they said, go to we. Do you accept that?
No, I don't. We've since learned that they didn't really do any analyses of other entities. The YMCA, for example, has come out and said that they believe that they could have delivered this type of a program. A simple Google search would have shown that we was in a lot of trouble, breaking their bank covenants, board members resigning, and then this bizarre agreement with a shell company. Instead of signing the contribution agreement directly with we, they set it up through some kind of a shell company to protect we on the liability side. None of that makes any sense. We know in the past few years that members of Justin Trudeau's immediate family were paid big bucks to give speeches. We know Justin Trudeau was promoted, given a platform to get his message out to young people. And we know that we goes to corporations and pitches them. If you give this organization money, they tell young kids that your product or service is cool. And that seems to be what has happened here. You know, Justin Trudeau helped out an organization that was in trouble who had provided him with a political platform, except he did it with your money. He did it with Canadian taxpayers' money.
It had to.
So that's a 1 minute and 11-second encapsulation of the major parts of the scandal. He enriched his friends with Canadian taxpayer dollars. That's what it boils down to. And that's Andrew Scheer kind of laying it out for people. And here is Diana Murphy, and she says Toronto City hired Leonard Commercial Realty Brokerage to scout out locations. The end result was a 10-year lease of We properties starting January 1st, 2020 for $6.1 million, and an agreement by the city to take on the cost of a $3.7 million renovation, documents show. How often, if you've been a landlord, how often do tenants put in renovations like that, $3.7 million renovations on $26 per square foot real estate? That seems like a lot. That seems like a hefty investment for a tenant to make, doesn't it? Just my personal interpretation. Maybe I don't have the right tenants. Here's CBC article about the same thing. City to review why it's paying $9.7 million to rent buildings from parents of We charity founders. This is another situation, and they use the same shell company scam. Here it is. As questions swirl around the We Charity's links to federal political leaders, Toronto City Council has voted to look at how staff decided to lease a Cabbagetown building for nearly $10 million from the parents of the charity's founders, Craig and Mark Kielburger. Councillor Kristen Wong-Tam, whose ward includes the building, moved the motion this week, saying the city needs to deliver a full explanation about how the deal was worked out for the building at 233 Carlton Street, just west of Parliament Street. When the We scandal blew up, said Wong-Tam, community members started to raise the concern about how much the city was involved with the We charity and the Kielburger family, especially as it pertains to 233 Carlton. I scroll down a little bit. The city's review is set to include how staff came to know about 233 Carlton Street, who from We organization communicated with staff to determine the financial terms of the lease, and if the agreed upon amount is in line with the current market value. The building is owned by 1622774 Ontario Limited, which is listed as belonging to Fred and Teresa Kielburger. The City of Toronto got possession of the rental property at the beginning of 2020. The nearly 1,300 square foot space is set to become the new home for Adelaide Resource Centre for Women, a 24-hour drop-in shelter. The review will look at how the lease agreement was handled and whether other rental units were considered to house the centre. There's an agreement here you can look at, links in the description if you're interested. According to the lease, the city is paying nearly $10 million over a 10-year period, including $3.7 million in renovations, an amount many residents in the neighborhood feel is extremely high. Carmine Cocamillo, sorry if I got that wrong, who lives in the area and owns commercial properties, said the Kielburgers are getting about $4 million in free upgrades to the building. Quote, that's our taxpayer dollars, said Cochumello? Oh, I'm getting it so terribly wrong. I'm sorry. Tenants do not put in that amount of money, he said, to renovate a building. He also wonders why the city didn't negotiate a better price when the 3-story unit sat on the rental market for several months before the city scooped it up. Scooped it up after sitting there. Scooped it up like at the end of the day when the dip's been sitting out and there's just a little bit left, enough to get on a chip. That's scooped it up, right? Yeah, lucky us. Yeah. Okay. The owners had to take it off the market because it sat there for so long. Yeah, you put that dish in the sink. You don't eat that chip. According to the rental listings, 233 Carlton Street was on the market from December 2018 to March 2019, and the price is listed at $26 per square foot. The copy of the lease agreement, I scroll down a little bit, that CBC Toronto obtained lists Wong Tam as the counselor consulted about the rental agreement. However, Wong Tam says that's an error that has now been corrected. Quote, "I was not given any option to approve or disapprove. I was just advised that this was going to happen," said Wong Tam. Another concern, Cocomello, I'm saying it that way, says is that the community feels as though it was blindsided by the deal and not informed that a drop-in center would be moving into the space. Wong Tam admits that the community wasn't given advance notice about what the space would become. Staff was handling the lease agreement and was allowed to sign off on it, though Wong Tam says the expectation was that the community would be contacted. You get a postcard. Here's a postcard. This is what's happening. Welcome to your new community. Here is an image of just outside We. This is Scotty, and he says, "We Charity," because I'm sure that it'll get taken down. I'm sharing 2 Uhauls outside of We Charity in Toronto, and there's a bunch of Uhauls. The picture doesn't expand this way. It's like a cell phone picture, so it's and it's taken upside. It's taken this way. I think it doesn't look like it. They turned it sideways. So that's interesting, and this is part of the problem that I was talking about with investigating this in a parliamentary committee instead of investigating this in a criminal way or through the RCMP or via police or something to that effect, because the scenes are not secure, right? Like the evidence is not secure. All of it is their property to do with as they like. There's no investigation. There's no nothing. There's people meeting at a parliamentary committee that has no teeth to really do much of anything other than compel witnesses to be under oath and tell the truth. So, right, carries on. Here's Catherine McKenna demanding. She says, red alarm thing. Stop what klaxon, red klaxon thing. Okay, stop what you're doing and take 1 minute to download the new COVID alert app. It's an easy to use tool that will also protect your privacy. I feel like that's not true. Now, yesterday, somebody said in the comments, an app developer said, that's not true. You have to explicitly grant permissions for the apps to do that, and you have to, and they can't update so yesterday I said they update their terms of service and you get updated right along with it. That was incorrect, and thank you for correcting me. I do appreciate it. I think what I was referring to was the lawsuit that is currently hitting Tim Hortons. So what Tim Hortons was doing was their app was accessing the data if you entered other coffee shops, etc. So that's the kind of backdoor I was kind of trying to allude to. So I apologize for misrepresenting. It is very true that in Android and iOS you have very fine controls over permissions. But it is also true that Tim Hortons is being sued because their app was accessing location data improperly, and so there's holes in that. But I do want to be correct about what I say, and so I was wrong about that, and thank you for correcting me. So I hope everybody understands what I'm talking about. So and I do try to be clear, and sometimes I'm not. So when I'm wrong, I do try and mention it. But this is interesting though, right? Like I don't know how an app an app that is meant to identify you to other people and see if those people were in contact with other people who may have had COVID-19. I don't see how it can protect your privacy. I don't see how it can, it may not offer up your information, but I don't know how it actively protects your privacy, right? I don't know. So I don't believe this. I'm not buying into the COVID app. I'm not buying into this. I don't think this is the best way to do this, especially 6 months into this pandemic. Now we're doing the contact tracing. Now we're doing the mandatory masks. Sorry guys, you lost the total plot here, and it's garbage. The information is too inconsistent. The people being praised like Como in New York, And he's got a huge amount of deaths, but Fauci is silent about other places that have done better with less restrictions, right? It's just really, it's very, very odd the way the newspaper and all of the press, from the United States, Canada to the UK press that I've seen, distorts what's really going on. And HCQ, we're going to talk about HCQ in just a minute, right now. Here's Dr. Simone Gold. She says, after our press conference, I was defamed by the media, censored by social media companies, terminated from my employment, and viciously attacked, all for advocating for the right of physicians to prescribe what they believe is best for their patients. And that's true, and she's fundraising for her website, so, I mean, whatever, that's fine, I suppose. But having all of these doctors do the daily press conferences, and these people are treating patients. I don't treat patients. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. I don't know what is true, right? I'm not in the ORs, or I'm not in the hospitals seeing this stuff happen. These people presumably are, right? I think that there's a requirement to joining America's frontline doctors, I think. And so it seems really strange to have this kind of silencing of something that presumably works for something that is devastating the West and the economy. Why aren't our politicians paying attention to this? Why are they purposely ignoring this? Why do we have here's Spanish doctors denounce COVID-19 as a false pandemic. But this is what I wanted to show you. Why do we have charts like this? Here, I'll take me out of this for a second. Why do they have charts like this when it says total confirmed COVID-19 deaths per million people? And it says countries that ban or limit HCQ. United Kingdom has a high graph, and there's no left-hand. This is funny. I don't like using stuff like this because it's meaningless. There's no left-hand side. There's no. Oh, okay. Well, this is 17 deaths July 1st. There's no death amount, so these lines mean very little, in my opinion, unless they put the numbers. Anyway, regardless, I've seen other graphs that are meaningful that show the deaths. I'll see if I can find it. Hold on. Okay, here's the chart that I was talking about. Country case fatality rate in percentage by HCQ usage. So Costa Rica is over here at much less than 2%. Qatar and Bahrain and Turkey, Peru, Russia, India, very low. Mixed, USA, Brazil, Iran, down around 6%. Canada's at 8%. Mixed, no HCQ use. I think we have mixed use. New Brunswick's allowing HCQ. I don't know if Ontario has banned HCQ or what, but I think Canada has mixed technically. But it's interesting. It's interesting, and this is. I don't have source data for all of this, so take this with a grain of salt, please. But it's interesting that this is the kind of stuff that is silenced. This is the kind of stuff that is not even thought about, not even discussed. It's just silenced. We're watching it in real time, right? And how do individuals fight that? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't. Moving into Nova Scotia, Anne McClellan, one of 3 commissioners of the Nova Scotia mass shooting inquiry, steps down. One of the 3 people selected to lead the public inquiry into the Nova Scotia mass shooting has dropped out. Anne McClellan has informed the federal and provincial governments that she supports the decision to call a public inquiry, but is unable to commit the time required to carry out an inquiry commissioner's responsibilities. I scroll down. The closed-door review was strongly criticized by relatives of the 22 victims of the April 18th, 19th killings who had advocated for a public inquiry with the power to subpoena witnesses to testify under oath. The 2 governments did an about-face on the review on Tuesday and ordered a public inquiry, and at the time, Blair said that the 3 people appointed for the review had also agreed to serve as commissioners. Guess that was not entirely accurate. So, yeah, stepping down, we've got a public inquiry happening, but I don't know. There's a lot more to this. It stinks. All right, this is from July 22nd. I'd missed this, but this is interesting because one of the experts is Gerald Butts, right? Feds, this is CBC or CTV News reporting on July 22nd. Feds should invest $50 billion in green projects for post-pandemic stimulus. Experts. So the experts are the task force for a resilient recovery. So when I looked up the task force for a resilient recovery, guess who was? Hey, there he is. There he is, Gerald Butts, right? Same guy who's the architect for similar policies in Ontario, policies that have driven our cost of electricity sky high. And I mean, we're still paying for it, right? I'm sure there are other recognizable names on this list, but that one just stuck out to me, right? What are you doing lately, Gerald? Here's Toronto's Sun, and it says the feds paid $10 million for climate change studies that were never written. You know, because it's hard to finish things. It's hard to finish your research and then put something out, right? Especially when you got to get out there to protest, right? Didn't you hear the protest this weekend? Canada extends Canada extends peacekeeping mission despite losing bid for Security Council seat. This was August 2nd. Today's August 3rd. I don't think I mentioned that yet. Canada extends peacekeeping. Oh, I said that already. I'm not going to get into this. Essentially, they are honoring the promise they made in 2017 or 2018. And this is kind of funny. Trudeau also promised the UN that Canada would provide a helicopter detachment which operates in Mali from June 18 to September 2019. He also pledged a quick reaction force comprised of up to 200 troops, which has yet to be fulfilled. You know, he'll get there eventually. Canada-U.S. border, moving on. Canada-U.S. border could be closed for months. Here's what you need to know. The cases in the U.S. are exploding in different major city centers, kind of similar to how our initial curve happened, Canada's initial curve, and similar as well to the different areas like Toronto, Montreal, the different major cities having outbreaks roughly the same time and following roughly the same curve. And I think that these U.S. outbreaks are going to basically do the same, but they've been closing the border despite Tam and Haidu saying at the beginning, this virus knows no borders, it will get where it wants to go. They've closed the borders between the U.S. and Canada. And this is like ongoing. This is going for months. Now, essential travel is still allowed. And I didn't realize you could fly to the U.S., but see, according to CBC, you can fly to the U.S. I'm going to read it right now. But isn't that wild that you still cannot drive across the border and it doesn't look like it's going to be open for a while yet? And they're claiming positive public support for this. Wild. So when will the Canada-U.S. border reopen? It came as no surprise to many people when the federal government announced last month that the Canada-U.S. land border, which closed on March 21st to non-essential traffic, would remain shut until at least August 21st. Canadians can still fly to the U.S., but the rule isn't reciprocal. Canada prohibits U.S. visitors from entering via all modes of transport. Canada and the U.S. review their border closure agreement every 30 days. Several experts in different fields have told CBC News that they predict the border won't reopen until sometime next year. I wonder, these experts, man, they can find anybody to say anything. Given public opinion, and right here's public opinion. Okay. Given public opinion, economist Moshe Lander said that it would be, quote, political suicide for Canadian politicians to contemplate reopening the border right now. As long as Canadians don't feel safe, then why force open that border when there's no strong political logic to doing it, said Lander, a professor at Concordia University in Montreal. He predicts a possible border reopening in the middle to late 2021 if there's enough confidence at that point that the virus is under control. The federal government recently loosened its travel restrictions to allow Americans to visit immediate family in Canada, including dependent children, spouses, and common law partners. To qualify as common law, couples must have lived together for at least 1 year and prove it with documentation showing a shared address. Some people are even getting married to comply. Interesting, right? But that land border is going to stay shut. I was in Baltimore. This is a guy who does this in Canada, but I was in Baltimore. This is years ago, probably 2012. I did an American history tour, and there was a guy who could sing with like backing tracks and a PA system, and he was just standing on the curves of the dock. I guess there was some things you can tie up, and there's water there, and he's singing away, and he was really good. This guy, and you don't see that very often in Canada. Like, sometimes you do, I guess. But I guess there's a guy in Calgary who does the same thing, and I listened to him earlier today, and I thought it was pretty good. So I'll leave the link in there if you want to watch it. What the mayor is playing. I like parody songs. I think they're good. So and like especially political like parody songs, right? Political songs set to not parody, like what Weird Al did. That's not parody. Like covering it and making up your own words. Like there's a word for it and I can't remember what it is. But anyway, maybe it is parody. But anyway, stuff like that, especially when it's political and so grassroots, and like the people who are supporting it. That's great, man. That's wonderful. This is the kind of protesting I can get behind, right? Like, this is what protests look like when you start throwing mortars at buildings. That's like you've crossed over, right? A nice sing song, that's a protest. Mortars, that's something completely different, I think. That's just my opinion, I suppose. Okay, that's enough out of me. Enjoy your holiday Monday if you're holiday Monday-ing. And thanks for watching. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And have a wonderful, wonderful